After we finished Pretty Woman, I thought what I was going to do right away is get into some more rock riffs, using that one as an inspiration and a template for them. But as I've also just finished a few explanations of eighth notes and note divisions, and then also getting into Snake Charmer on page 31 and the A string, I thought I'd probably better finish off here on page 31 in Hal Leonard a bit with the song Sea Shanty. It used to be called Tired Sailor, and back when I was a kid it was called Drunken Sailor. The lyrics still say it, and it helps us with the rhythms. When you look at this song, you see we've got quarter notes and eighth notes, quarter notes and eighth notes. Quarter notes are one beat apiece. They're half the value of a half note, which is half the value of a whole note. The eighth note, the little note with a flag on it, is half the value of a quarter note. A quarter note's one beat, so an eighth note is half a beat. That means in the space of a beat we would get two of them. If they land right on the count where a quarter note would be on beat 1 or on beat 2 and you had two of them, their little flags will touch and form a beam, and we would count them as 1 and or 2 and wherever they land. So the beat here is 1, then 2 eighth notes, 2 and, 3, and then 2 eighth notes, 4 and. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. In grade school, you may have done that as ta, ti, ta, ti. If you do that, that's a great exercise on a song like this. You could walk your way through it and apply those syllables, the tas and titis. Ta, ti, ta, ta, ta. Next bar, ta, ti, ta, ta. Next bar, ta, ti, ta, ta. Notice we've got a motif going again. The same pattern has repeated 3 times. As music likes to operate in 4s, a lot of times the third one will be a change from the first 2. Here we've got a summation in the 4th set. The last 2 bars in this 8-bar song doesn't follow that pattern. It starts to wind things down. It winds it down with the scale coming down, da, 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 and with the rhythms. We're not speeding up any longer, we're slowing down. Ta, 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 then half notes. Ta, ah, ta, ah. When I count for myself and I'm playing, I may actually say 1 and, although I'm only striking the note once. So I'd go 1 and 2 and. I get to strike both on 2 and, only one of them, but I could still say 3 and. 3 and 4 and. When I'm demonstrating this or playing it with somebody, I usually won't say the ands on the quarter notes, for the very reason that that confuses people. They may think they heard the note played as well. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. It also really helps to delineate the beats if I don't say it when I'm just pointing them out. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. The reason I bring it up now is that the half notes though, usually I'm still going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though I'm not playing on 2 and 4, it still helps to hear where those are. So the rhythm of the song. Here coming down to a finish. We hit a repeat sign. A few other things that are really fun in this song. I've asked people to look them over sometimes and said, what do you see here? And one student lately said, oh, isn't it the same thing that happened in Snake Charmer? And I was really impressed. I said, yeah, that's what I'm pointing to here. Here we look at our note. You might notice the stem going up. You see the note in the space. You might recognize that's a little picture of an ant in my illustrations. Or you can go F-A-C-E. Or by now you may just glance at that and know it's an A. So we've got A in that one bar. I'd actually have you look at the next note too. So there's another A. A. If I have a student doing that rhythm, and we've talked about it, A, that feels very complete, and they might presume that it was all found in this first bar. So I have to point out that we're overlapping to beat 1 of the next bar. But then I would have them play that, and I might play the next 4 notes. As I've been doing, I would like them to say the notes out loud, so I'll say them for you. In a long stream of notes, though, I may only tell you that I'm on A. I'm not going to say every single A. A, my notes. And after you've done that, I jump you to bar 3 and say what's going on here. Students would immediately recognize it's the same rhythm, so we're repeating the pattern, but what note is it? Every good boy deserves fudge, it's your G, So we've gone from A, you're squishing the ant at the 2nd fret, to open G. And you're doing the same thing. So you've got A's. And then in bar 3, you've got G's. In bar 4, back to A's. So again, with one piece of information, you've got 3 out of the 8 bars accomplished. So I'd have the student do those. You've got your A's. I take over. You've got your G's. I take over. You've got your A's. The benefit again of doing this is you get to practice that one motif over and over again, just as though you were sitting there practicing for yourself the first bar several times. But you get to do it in context of the song and hear the rest of the song played out. So we've got A's, then I'd have you identify those 3 notes. We've got a few strategies here. Obviously the rawest way is just to know all those notes. D is under the staff, F is in the space of face, A is on the next space in face, F-A-C-E. You can also see that we're in spaces on each one. D up to the next space F, up to the next space A. That means we're jumping over alphabetical notes. So if we're on D, we're jumping over the E, so we're going from D to F. We're jumping from F over the G to the A. So we've gone in thirds again. D, E, F. F is the third of D. F, G, A. A is the third of F. So we're building up in thirds, and you can start to recognize those. They're not alternating from space to line. They're continuing in the same form, either on lines or in spaces. So then I would have you practice that. You name those. D, F, A. Oh, cool. I started the bar on A. I ended on A. I only need the D and F. I didn't write it here, but very often at this moment, we have a little issue with those notes. Students start to forget them. So we flip back to page 15 and read them again. D is under the staff, E is on the line, F's in the space. We can play our D, E, D, D, E, E, all that information, review that again, then flip back here to play it. So on the 4th string, open D, 3rd fret F, surrounded by A's. So you could go A, open D, 3rd fret, A, D, F, A, D, F, A. Earlier we found D's and A's on this angle. Now we see F's and A's on this angle. That's something worth practicing again. F, A, F, F, A, F, A. Notice these notes are the F and A in your chord. So you are getting used to this angle. If you've been following along, you know that's a third from the way we built our chords. F to A is a third. So when you recognize the third here, you may see how to play it right away. So now I could play this 2-bar section if I were the student. I won't say all my A's. A, D, F, A. Again, A, D, F, A. Now I'd go into the next one. You saw that the A's have lowered to G's. And looking in the last bar, we have another G, of course. Down there on the line, that is the middle C that you will know from piano, or you can tell that it's the C below the D note. There the cat is with his ears and whiskers, with that one line through the middle being the whisker. So we're going up thirds, we're on lines. The first ledger line is the C, up to the line for Every Good Boy, that's your E, up to the next line, the G. We're already familiar with G's, or Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge. Also, you recognize they're in thirds. C to E and E to G. C, E, and G. So that bar is open G, 3rd fret C, 2nd fret E, open G. Oh, there's that angle again. We had it back here between F and A. That's the third that you might find in an F chord, although we're not in an F chord here. And there's the third between C and E, the third that you find in the C chord. Not coincidentally, we are on a C chord there. So now we have G's. Drop down to the C, E, G. I actually wind up holding somewhat of a C chord. This is almost an arpeggio of the C chord. G, So now I'd have you repeat both. A, D, F, A, G. So when I mentioned that something is happening here that we saw happening in Snake Charmer, where we had that one lick of the scale C, D, E, 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 F, repeated down an entire tone in the scale B, C, D, D, D. Here we see this entire 2 bars repeated 1 scale tone lower. A's replaced by a G, 1 note lower. D and F replaced by C's and E's. Again, that's something that really helps your reading and your song preparation and your memory of it. To be able to look over a part and recognize the patterns, we can see the scales here, we can see the thirds, we can even see how we're repeating the whole idea down a step. So here I've got A's, down to D, F, A, G's, down to C, E, G, back to A's on this line. Now the patterns are broken. Here we see ourselves climbing up, space line, space line, space line. That's going up a scale then. So we're on A. This is one of the first things we learned when we were reading scales, A, B, C, D. Recognize it's alphabetical. So again, you need to know that B is on that line, that C's in the space above it. But you will also spot these things working out just in patterns. You can see scale climbing. So without enunciating every single note necessarily, you can see I'm going from a scale up 4 notes. And I know I'll end on a D then. You still should go through an entire song naming all the notes for your own practice, but do look for these patterns. So I've got A's and then run up the scale from A. Landing on a D. You maybe started to notice the importance of D's here. Our lowest note was a D. Our highest note is a D, our last note is a D. We're in the key of D minor. So D is putting the parameters on this song. Once again from the beginning, A's, G's, D's, A's again. Working this out, you can see a couple of interesting things. It's coming back down the scale. We got to D, 1 note lower is C, so right under the D is a C. And then we drop 2 notes. We don't go to the line, we go to the space. What's that called? That's a third. C to A, that's a minor third that we saw in an A minor. Then down a step to G, and it goes down a third. Well, this is kind of cool. I don't think you would spot this early, and it may not help you immediately, but D went down a note to C, dropped a third to A, down a note to G, dropped a third to E, down a note to D. If you had trouble figuring this bar out, we may point something like that out, just to aid your memory. It may or may not help your playing. At this moment, it's going to help mine though. So D down to C in the scale, drop a third to A, down to G in the scale, drop a third to E, down a note in the scale to D. D, step, third step, third step. And you can hear also the direction of that. So I'm going to try to play it slowly enough here that if you've been working on it, you obviously can't do this on your first try, but put this video aside and work on it for a few days and come back to it. So here we are back at the beginning again with the A's. A, chord with G notes. C, E, G, A's on a D minor chord. Scale, step, step to the D, back to the beginning, A notes, climbing up the scale. Second line, A's. I panicked and told you you're walking up a scale here because I didn't want to tell you what it was, although it was on my mind. When we go through our chords, which you can do now, you can compare your D minor, which you've hopefully memorized, to what happens if you lower it one string? You go to A minor. This finger squirts back into line, so it's in the 2nd fret. So A minor and D minor are the same inversions, the same structure, one string apart. D minor being a string higher than A minor. When the A minor style goes here, it encounters a 2nd string with that note, so it squirts out. When we come back, it would have come back into alignment. And we first used A minor to learn its relative major C. If you've got A minor, you just shoot this ring finger out onto the C. So you can play through the chords of this once you've got the sense of it. Do a quick analysis of these chords. If you know your notes, you've got your open D, your A on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, your high D, and your F. So we've got D's, F's, and A's. We're building that in thirds. We've got D, we don't have E, but we have the F. We don't have G, but we have the A. So D, F, A. Where did you hear that already? In these notes. This whole thing built on the D chord, the D minor chord, is nothing but scale tones from that chord. It's got A's of the chord, then a D note. F we don't hold here, we have an F here though, and then the A. On a C chord, you build it in thirds. You can see that you have a C, an E, and an open G. So those 2 bars are an arpeggio or scale tones of the C chord. Open Gs. This one's more obvious because the notes are even in the same octave. C, E, G. Back to the scale tone of the D. Here we walk up the scale, so those notes aren't all in the chord. The arpeggio is when we're skipping notes, but we're going from A to a high D. So the endpoints of this are in the chord, and we just fill in the gaps, A, B, C, D, which is why it sounds so good. The A has the open A, an E note, another A C note, and an E. So A, C, and E. And there we see those notes. C is here, drops down to an A. The end note is E. Those 3 are all in the chord. To fill the gap, you would have hit either a G or an F. The G just sounds better, but it turns out it's part of the A chord too. If we're doing our thirds, A, B, C is the 3rd, from C, C, D, E is the 5th, and then from E, E, F, G is the flat 7 for the A minor. So this is actually an arpeggio of an A minor 7. So here you're building your entire song on chord tones. The 2 times we're not on a chord tone, we're on B's and C's. Even the C is arguably the chord tone. It's the flat 7 on the D minor. So we're actually thinking scale there though, rather than jumping onto chord tones. So that's why it sounds so good in these chords. And once you know the tune, you'll hear it in your chords. Why it can be drawn out of your chords as well. Alright, that's probably again gone way too long for such a simple little song, but it's a lot of fun and it's, as always, chock full of musical ideas. Have a good time with it, and I'll see you hopefully soon on some riffs. Bye for now.